Today we are talking about Elon Musk's Neuralink because the first human implantation has just begun, and we're going to be answering the question, what does this have to do with our future? This kind of transhumanism, brain implants, augmented reality, AI, all this, is this going to lead us to God consciousness or a hellish type of future in which a slave class is ruled over by a transhumanist ruling class? That's what we're going to be talking about today. This is really important as we go forward because we are having technology becoming that's developing at a very rapid pace in many different aspects that have to do with augmenting our abilities, which can lead to a very positive future, but can also lead to a very negative future as well. So that's what we're taking a look at today. We're going to be taking a look at what happened with Elon Musk's brain implant, what's going on with that, what it's for, and what this has to do with us and our future. It's going to be good. A lot of really important information here. Now, we're going to get started right away, but as always, please like and subscribe. My channel is about bringing hidden knowledge to the world and expanding consciousness. So when you hit like and subscribe, it spreads this information around. Helps out a lot. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoy my work and you want to see this channel grow, support over on patreon.com/MorgueOfficial, and you'll get access to all of our members only videos. And we're having a new members only video right after this called Memories Are Not Stored in the Brain, where we discuss the concept of memories and how that they aren't stored in the brain. They're stored somewhere else entirely. That's what we're going to be discussing in the members only video. So support on patreon.com/MorgueOfficial at any tier, or tier 2 or higher right here on YouTube by hitting the join button right below this video. Also beware that there are scammers in the comments that are pretending to be me, saying to join my WhatsApp and join my Telegram. They're even DMing people on different platforms. That's not me. Don't fall for the BS. I don't have a Telegram. I don't have a WhatsApp. Also be aware there are people out there who don't like what I'm doing and don't like what we are doing and are spreading a lot of misinformation and disinformation about me and our group and what we do. So just use your head, use logic and reason, and don't fall for the BS. All right, here we go, my friends. Elon Musk's Neuralink, the first human brain implant has occurred. So what is going on with this? Let's jump right into it and take a look at this news article, or video rather, and see what's going on.
This morning, Elon Musk announcing that for the first time, his company Neuralink has implanted a brain chip in a human. Musk saying the person is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. Neuralink's goal is to help paralysis patients communicate by connecting their brain to a computer. Initial results show...
By the way, I think it's really funny. I saw a meme the other day that said this particular tweet is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. So this is what Elon Musk just tweeted. Or, I don't know, it's X now, so what he X'd. I don't know what you say now that they're not tweets. What he posted, I guess? So what Elon Musk posted, that the patient is recovering well, initial results show promising neuron spike detection. And that's pretty much all he said so far about it. But it's funny, I saw a meme that said, this sounds exactly like a message that you would find in a video game, a horror video game, in like some lab where... some lab where there's just papers scattered everywhere. Clearly something has gone wrong. And you find like different logs, like log 1, patients recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection. I thought that was funny because it's very true that it does read like something you would find in a horror video game. But anyway, so this brain implant occurred, and we're going to be taking a look at what it looks like, by the way. I'll show you. It's about the size of I think it's like the size of a quarter. It's not small. It's pretty big. I'll show you a photo of it in a bit. But this individual had this brain implant. Apparently they're doing well. Well, that's what Elon Musk says. Who knows the accuracy of that, but probably. So let's continue.
Promising neuron spike detection. Neuralink's goal is to help paralysis patients communicate by connecting their brain to a computer.
Okay, so this is, hey, well, there is an image of it right there. I'll show you a better image later as well. But there's an image of the Neuralink itself. You can see it's pretty big. It's like the size of a quarter. And look how thick that is. That is a fairly large device to have implanted in your brain. It's not, a small little microchip or anything like that. It's pretty hefty. So this is for disabled individuals, people who have paralysis or different issues, to help them communicate. Now, a couple things to say about this. One, I think it's important to bring that up because I don't know that a lot of people are aware of it. They think that it has, I don't think they understand that it's to help people who have difficulty communicating or functioning in a certain way. However, of course, I highly doubt, well, obviously it's not that's its first use case, right? That's its first use case. Of course, as the technology develops and it gets rolled out, that will be developed to, be available to everyone for many different purposes. I'm sure this is all my opinion, of course, but I think it's fairly obvious if you think about it, that's what's going to happen. Now, if you think about this is actually really clever. It's actually very, very smart that Elon Musk is using it to help individuals who may have paralysis or who are disabled in some way. First of all, that's fine. If this actually helps people like that, that's great. That's awesome. That's fantastic. However, it is also a very ingenious, sneaky way to have a lot of human test subjects. Because if you think about it, right, if you're trying to develop a piece of technology, it's a brain implant, and you want to do human testing, well, if it's just for entertainment or something along those lines, I'd imagine you're going to have a pretty big problem being able to get humans to test this on. However, if it is initially designed to help individuals who are disabled in some way, that is a very clever way to get a large group of people to test this device on, because you have this device and it's going to hopefully help disabled people communicate, right? Hopefully it will. But now you have a whole pool of people who have this device implanted, and you can essentially use it as a base to experiment with other use cases. Like initially, yes, it's going to be rolled out to help disabled people. But now that you have a bunch of human testers, it can be developed to be rolled out for a much wider use case in just the form of entertainment or other forms of augmentation as well. So anyway, I just think that that's, first of all, again, I want to say if this actually helps disabled people, I'm all for that. That's great. But it is, I think, a clever way to enable Musk to enable human testing in a way that is ethical. You see what I mean? Like if this wasn't for disabled people, if Elon Musk was like, oh, I just want to test this on a bunch of people because I want to make a device that lets you communicate to your phone with your mind, that would seem very unethical to just start planting planting chips in people's brain. Like, how are you going to do that? Are you going to get like prisoners or something? Like, how are you going to test this on people? Like, there's a lot of very, ethics becomes a big issue. But if it's for disabled individuals where it's helping them, then you do have a pool of tests. So let's just continue watching this. I think what we're going to find out with a lot of this, that it's very much a double-edged sword. So I'm going to say right away how I feel about this stuff. We're going to see more about this, but how I feel about this stuff, I am totally for human augmentation with technology. Absolutely. I'm down with it. What I think is dangerous is who is developing it and what it's developed for. So just the idea in general of being technologically augmented, I think that's fine. But the people who are designing it, how it's designed, how it's used, that's something else entirely. It's just like the internet. The internet is fantastic, but the internet can also be used. It can be used in a positive way to spread information, to collaborate. I'm able to communicate with you right now. We're able to raise consciousness with it, but it can also be used to spread hatred and disinformation. It becomes addictive. It reduces intelligence if used in a certain way. There's a lot of negatives about it as well. So let's continue to see what's going on here.
The device is designed to interpret your neural activity so you can operate a computer or a smartphone by simply thinking.
People paralyzed from stroke.
So what it does is it allows you to operate a computer or a smartphone just by thinking about it. So I'd imagine that if I suppose if you're looking at your phone and you want to open an app like Google, instead of tapping it, you just think about it. From what I understand, that's what's going on here. Now, if you're not a disabled individual, if you're not paralyzed or something like that, that probably doesn't seem like a very, very big deal. It's just thinking about it as opposed to tapping on it. It really doesn't save that much time. But if you're paralyzed, you can see that, okay, well, that's very, very helpful, because you wouldn't be able to do that in any other way. Now you can do Google searches. You can do all sorts of things that your phone will just be sitting up in front of you, and you can do whatever you want on your phone just by thinking about it. For individuals who aren't paralyzed, that's not really a big deal, because we can just swipe and tap. But for those who are, that is a very big deal. It can help with people communicate with loved ones and engage in the world in a lot easier ways. But of course, we always have to remember that this is just the beginning of this technology. Of course, this, as of right now, it seems like, oh, that's not a very big deal. It lets you be able to tap into use your phone just by thinking about it. Well, yeah, of course. But that's just like, think of the difference between when a telephone just came out, an old rotary phone versus the smartphone today. That's kind of analogous to what we're talking about here, where it's at its infancy. So there are a lot of big use cases that can be developed later. This is just its initial testing phases.
From traumatic brain injury or a spinal cord injury could see the benefits.
This would be a major game changer if it were to be proven to be safe and effective.
The FDA approved Neuralink for human tests last May after years of testing on animals.
Here's one electrode on one thread that when we stimulate causes a flexion movement of the leg.
The company demonstrated the ability of its implants to stimulate movement.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, if you saw that, you see the pig's leg moving right now. That is apparently caused by the implant stimulating the movement, from what I understand.
Movement of the leg.
The company demonstrated the ability of its implants to stimulate movement.
As you can see, Pager is amazingly good at mind pong,
allowing a monkey to play a video game.
So the monkey was playing Pong with its mind. Again, interesting.
And what better reward for a monkey than a banana?
Musk says the first human users will be people who've lost the use of their limbs. But speaking about the long term.
So again, the first human users will be those who have lost the use of their limbs. And if it helps them, I think that that's great. I think it's fantastic. We want to increase quality of life. The question is how this is going to be implemented later. Because this will, if it is successful, and we don't know, it's possible that this could fail. But something like it will be developed at one point or another. Sometimes technologies fail and then they get their legs later. Like Meta trying to create the metaverse, right? Did not work very well. It failed. But now we have the Apple Vision Pro, which is literally coming out tomorrow, which is leaps and bounds in terms of quality of what anything that Meta has put out. Now, will that catch on rapidly? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but it's taking steps where it's clearly being developed. So all these technologies, where it comes to AI, is clearly has taken off and is revolutionizing many different areas of human culture and society and the world. There's a lot of ethical problems and issues that it raises as well. But it's clearly a technology that is here to stay and has taken off and is altering the world as we know it. Brain implants and virtual and AR technology, I firmly believe, will also have similar effects at some point. It's just a matter of when that will be. So like I said, the Apple Vision Pro comes out tomorrow. And I'll show you a video of the Apple Vision Pro if you haven't seen it. It's these glasses that you wear. It's not a glass, it's a headset. But basically, it's very similar. It kind of does what the Neuralink does, but approached in a different way. So with the Neuralink, you have a brain implant and you're looking at your phone and you can use your mind to do whatever you want. Scroll to a different page, select an app, open the app up, do a search, whatever. So the Apple Vision Pro is a headset that you wear, and you look around and you just see the room around you. All right, it creates a version of the room around you, but you can have all the apps that would be on your phone appear right in front of your face. So imagine right now, right, like you're watching this video right now, but imagine if you wanted to just have all the apps that would be on your phone just floop coming up and appearing right in front of you, and you could scroll through them and select. So if you were wearing the Apple Vision Pro right now, you wouldn't be watching me on your phone or on a TV. It would be in a window in front of you, just sitting in the middle of your room. And you could move the window, you could make it bigger, you can open up different windows and do other things while it plays over here, etc. So it's very interesting. So it's you can see that with Neuralink, it has you control things with your mind, whereas the Apple Vision Pro, it creates a new layer of reality over this reality that you can interact with. And I very firmly believe that at some point, all these technologies are going to converge and be used together. You'll have AR and VR and brain implants and AI technology all converging to create a new kind of avataric experience. And that's what we're going to be talking about in just a minute too. I want to finish this, but we're going to be talking about this as well as how this is changing our avatars as we know them. It is another evolutionary step, and it is let me finish this video, but something that I want to talk about is how the Neuralink, I'm not sure how the degree to how functional it is right now, but at some point, if it's successful, it's going to allow you to connect to the internet with your brain. So instead of having your phone, you'll be able to connect to the internet with your brain. And this is something that I've talked about. Let me just bring this up, and we'll go back to the video in just a minute. But I want to say this because it's really important. I have continuously said that smartphones are new organs. They are new human organs that we have developed, and they give us a new sense, which is a collective sense. They are the eyes and the ears of the absolute. And what that means is these devices allow us to have a connection to the collective. I can see what you're doing. You can see what I'm doing. You're seeing it right now. You can hear what's happening on the other side of the world. It allows us to connect to the collective. We can tap into the reservoir of human knowledge. We can see what our friends are doing through their posts and their stories. The smartphones and smart devices are new human organs that give us a new sense that connects us to the collective. It's the collective sense. It's the building of the framework of a sub-network mind and network consciousness, a new kind of consciousness that is a unified network consciousness. And this is going to be even more obvious when things like Neuralink have huge functionality. Because I think that a lot of people, it doesn't really seem real to them in a certain way when I say, oh, smartphones are a new human organ that gives us a collective sense. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever, sure. But that's going to become increasingly clear when it's no longer a phone that you hold, but it's literally a brain implant. It's a brain implant, and it allows you'll be able to, just like what you do now with your phone, you'll be able to do now just by thinking about it. You'll be able to get updates. You'll be able to see what your friends are doing. You'll be able to see what's going on the other side of the world. You'll be able to do, Google searches all in your mind. And now we're a long way away from that, but that's what will happen at some point. And at some point, it may even be the case that these things are installed just at birth. I don't know if that is true or not, but you could imagine a world in which that happened, in which these were just installed automatically. And it would just become it would become a part of us. It would just become a new human ability that we have. And smartphones are the precursor to that. Smartphones are new human organs, but they're externalized. We will eventually have them internalized in the form of technology like this Neuralink. So, but the question is this going to bring us to God consciousness or to a slave framework? And that's the really big issue here, is because the technology in and of itself is not bad. It's how the technology is used. And the problem is that this technology, who owns this technology, who is implementing this technology, who is developing this technology? The rich elite billionaire class. You have people like Meta and Zuckerberg and Apple and Elon Musk. These are all the individuals who are developing technologies that are related to shaping our future and our consciousness through VR and AR, metaverses, brain implants, artificial intelligence, Vision Pro. All these things are at their infancy, their beginning stages, but as they develop, they will absolutely be tools to shape human consciousness and the human experience. So it's a very big danger to have these technologies being developed in the hands of the rich billionaire elite class who don't care about increasing quality of life. They care about increasing profit. And that is the problem. That's the problem right there, where you're going to be so, think of a time where it's like, oh, you've used your eyes for an hour. If you want to keep using them, watch this 60-second ad. Or, oh, your subscription to enhanced cognitive functions has expired, or the use of your legs, your subscription to the use of your legs has expired. Do you want to update your, you can imagine that there are a ton of very frightening implications that this technology could have when it's developed and in the hands of capitalist billionaires who don't care about anything except increasing their profit. So this technology in and of itself is not bad. However, it can lead to the fact, helping people who are paralyzed. It can augment us in ways that are beyond imagining right now, augment our cognitive capabilities, connect us to a network mind, have us communicate with each other instantaneously, share each other's thoughts. All of these ideas are things that can be implemented and developed, which can lead to rapid expanses in our evolution. Imagine augmenting ourselves with artificial intelligence. Imagine connecting with each other, sharing each other's thoughts, being augmented in terms of our capabilities. We will be able to unleash our godlike potential if it is implemented by those who are hyper aware and understand where we are, what we are, and why we're here, and are intent on increasing and maximizing the quality of life for all. If it's in the hands of the rich billionaire class, they won't see that at all and will simply develop this technology for increasing their profit, which will lead to a slave framework where you can imagine a time where the wealth gap has become so big that only the elite can afford these augmentations. And then you're literally going to have two races of humans. You're going to have those who can afford to be augmented and have like godlike powers, and those who can't, and will basically become a slave class to produce. And you'll also have a lot of also frightening things like super soldiers being developed, because I'll tell you what, capitalists only care about three things: producers, workers, and soldiers. That's what capitalists care about. Producing workers to, consumers, workers, and soldiers. That's it. Consumers, workers, and soldiers. And they want workers to create products. They want consumers to consume products. And then they want soldiers to conquer and retrieve more resources or protect the resources that they have, and to enforce their rule as well. So that's it. If you have a world that is run by the rich elite billionaire class, which it is more and more every day becoming that, and is already there in many ways, with their elite billionaire class controlling the narrative through social media, Elon Musk controlling X and Twitter, Zuckerberg controlling Meta and Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and all the different platforms. You have TikTok. All of these are controlled by individuals who can shape the world and shape consciousness through the spread of information. That's why Musk wanted Twitter. He doesn't care about using it to make money or anything like that. He has enough money. He wants to use it in order to shape consciousness, because that's the thing. He has a lot of money. So of course, Musk always wants to make more money, but with a particular tool like X or Twitter, he's not looking at that, while other things may be used to increase profit and make money. This particular item he's looking at as a tool to shape consciousness and shape and control the flow of information. Same thing with all these platforms. That's huge. You know, it's not tanks and warheads that will be able to end up controlling the world. It's information, ideas, consciousness. That's ultimately what shapes and changes the world. And all the tanks and warheads are in service to what ultimately originates as an idea. So anyway, let's continue this, because there's a lot here.
He said, imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That is the goal.
I really do think that in my lifetime as a physician, I'll be able to use this type of technology to help my patients, and I cannot wait for that day to come.
Neuralink's engineers aren't the only ones turning science fiction into reality. Researchers elsewhere helped this man, paralyzed in an accident, walk again thanks to implants in his brain and spine. And in August, this woman who had lost her voice to paralysis was able to have a conversation with her husband again thanks to a mind-controlled avatar.
Do not make me laugh.
Experts warn.
And by the way, I think that's all really cool. That's great. It's just about looking forward and thinking about where this could lead and making sure that we develop these technologies in a way that maximizes quality of life and is ethical. Right now, if it's being implemented in a way to help paralyzed people, help people communicate, help people walk, different technologies like that, that's great. That's fantastic. I'm all 100% for that. But it's how it's going to be implemented in the future, because you know it's not going to stay that way. It's going to be used in a myriad other ways.
Much more testing and research is needed before any kind of widespread use of these devices.
So I saw this interesting video here by Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you guys can see this.
Where you're saying, let me connect my brain neurologically to the internet. Really? Is that really much better than me pulling out my smartphone and typing? I guess it's faster. Okay, so you'll do it in a matter of seconds, and I'll take me 20 seconds. You'll do it in 3 seconds. You know, I have the 17 seconds. I could do that without USB plugging this into the base of my neck. Okay. So I suspect.
So it's interesting here to see what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying about it. He's basically saying when it comes to Neuralink, he's like, okay, well, you can use it to control your phone. And it's like, he's basically saying that's stupid. All right, it'll save you a couple, it'll save you 17 seconds or whatever. He's basically saying I have the time to swipe and tap rather than just thinking about it. He's saying the extra 17 seconds or however long it takes to change that, to interface with your phone in that way is stupid, according to Neil deGrasse Tyson. So if that were what it was all about, I would agree with him. However, I think that that's a very narrow view of what this is, because first of all, it's being implemented to help people who are paralyzed or have some kind of disability. So they literally can't use their finger to swipe to different apps or something like that. So it's a little weird that he's saying that, because it's developed, right now it's developed for individuals who are disabled in some way to help them. It's not just the average everyday person, because yes, of course, you could just swipe yourself. Also, the other thing that I want to note about that is that clearly these are just its beginning phases. So right now, that might be all that it's good for, but 10 years down the road or whatever, it's obviously going to have much more functionality and much more capability. Like I said, like all the different things that I mentioned before, connecting to individuals, linking up with different individuals' minds, sharing thoughts, sharing ideas, connecting to the collective. Who knows what capabilities it will ultimately allow one to have. So kind of strange opinion from Neil deGrasse Tyson, because one, it's for right now individuals who are disabled. And two, yes, clearly it's not a huge deal what it can do right now, but this is just the beginning phases. Like I mentioned before, the difference between an old rotary phone or a telegraph and smartphones that we have today. Everything starts somewhere. So yeah, I would agree with him if that's all it did. and it wasn't for disabled people, sure. However, this is just its beginning phases, and it's helping those who can't function in a way that is easily accessible. So I think it's clear at this point. My opinion is twofold. I think that there's a lot of positive aspects of this, but clearly there's also a lot of possible negative aspects of this. It depends on how it's used and how it's developed, and that's what it really hinges on.
Billionaire Elon Musk is saying his Neuralink company has successfully implanted one of its wireless brain chips in a human for the first time. He made the announcement on X, his social media platform, saying the procedure happened on Sunday. He says the subject is recovering well and that initial results show a promising neuron spike detection. Mr. Musk says the product has been given the name telepathy, and the plan is for it to enable control of a phone, computer, or almost any linked device.
That's interesting. So he's calling it telepathy. That's an apt name, I suppose. I want to make it clear, by the way, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is a terrible individual. But because one is a terrible individual, it doesn't mean that everything that is associated with them is ipso facto negative. If devices that he is creating are helping individuals who are disabled, that's great. I still don't like him, and I think he has very ill intentions and is a nefarious individual and a very backwards thinking individual. He just has absolutely terrible ideas. He said at one point that people shouldn't be allowed to vote unless they were married? No, unless they had, it was either unless they were married or unless they had kids. I want to say it was unless they had kids. But he said, let me double check that to make sure. Over the weekend, this was written in July 4th of 2023. Over the weekend, Elon Musk appeared in a Twitter post to endorse the idea of taking the right to vote away from people without children. And he's a father of 10, by the way. And I think that's an interesting thing that a lot of people are like, oh, the rich elite, they're trying to lower the population. They're trying to lower the population. They're trying to depopulate the earth. I don't really buy into that. Elon Musk is all about people having kids and increasing the population. And that makes sense from a capitalist perspective, because guess what? When you have a bigger population, you have more workers, you have more consumers, and you have more soldiers. You have more people to make products, you have more people to buy your products, and you have more people to enforce your rule. And so I don't really buy into the depopulating idea when people like Elon Musk clearly say that he thinks that there should be a larger population and people should be procreating more, and that people who don't have children shouldn't have the right to vote. Anyway, just long story short, I don't like Elon. I want to make that clear. However, that does not mean that this technology could not help people. Of course it could, but that's an important thing to know.
Just by thinking about them. Several rival companies have already implanted what are known as brain-computer interface systems in humans after tests were carried out initially on monkeys. With more, here's our North America correspondent, Peter Bowes.
What Elon Musk's Neuralink is trying to do is what a number of other companies have been attempting for quite a while now, and that is essentially to create a brain-computer interface that will allow a human being to carry out an action through thought alone. Now, it involves implanting a number of microchips into the brain.
Really think about this, though. Do you see how we're developing our next iteration of avatars? That's what's occurring. We are the force of evolution shaping ourselves. That's what's occurring right now. And it's important to have that perspective, to remember what we are, where we are, and why we are here. We aren't just random humans building technology. We are the force of evolution shaping the next iteration of our avatars. And the question is, where is that going to go? Where are we going to shape it? That's why it's very important in our goal to create a teleocracy which is a planetary civilization about maximizing the quality of life for all. And this is done through raising consciousness, of course, to begin with, raising consciousness. And when one has hyper awareness, this means that one develops this technology with the understanding of what one is doing. Like someone like Elon Musk does not understand that he is the force of evolution, part of the force of evolution directing, our avataric development. He doesn't know that. He's just like, oh, I want to make this stuff because I think it's cool and will make me a lot of money and give me more power and give me control and etc. Whatever. But you see, that's where we need individuals who are at our higher state of consciousness to be directing our course of evolution so that we can be directing it in a positive way. We don't want to be directing it towards a slave framework. We want to be directing it towards a subnetwork mind in which we are all connected and we have a network consciousness. We want to develop a network consciousness so that we can increase our synchronization on our evolution to maximize quality of life for all. Not, oh, I have to pay for my subscription to use my eyes now, or, oh man, hold on just a minute. I can't finish talking to you. I have to watch this ad before I can, continue communicating or something like that. That's just a small fraction of some of the big problems we'll have with this. But it's really important to realize what's happening here. See what this is pull back from the human perspective, take that Zedic perspective, take even the absolute perspective, and understand that we are in the midst of our own avataric evolutionary development right now. Before, these human bodies were developed through evolution in an unconscious state, through a dialectical clash, through a teleological striving, through unconscious transformation. These avatars are really very primitive, but we are using them to augment ourselves. So we are shaping, people are like, oh, well, evolution, the effects of evolution, it takes so long that we don't really notice them because it takes, millions of years for different evolutionary things to, biological changes to occur. But when one realizes that everything is part of nature, including technology, we are developing our avatars right now. That's what we're doing. Through brain implantation, through virtual reality, through social media, through artificial intelligence. This is all leading towards the next iteration of our avatars, of our future localizations. So it's important to keep that in mind. We are, imagine how much the world will change if we all had brain implants that would allow us to share each other's thoughts. This is how we develop a network consciousness. This is how we create a consciousness that just transcends the individual. Well, we still have individual personalities, but we can connect to a reservoir of information and connect, just like with our smartphones. We're still ourselves, but our smartphones allow us to see what you're doing, or you can see what I'm doing, or you can retrieve information or communicate with people over vast distances or whatever. Just imagine all that being just at a thought away, coupled with, you can imagine it that coupled with like AR, augmented reality technology. So imagine, for example, having that brain implant while, let's say, wearing contacts that does what the Apple Vision Pro does right now. So you can retrieve information from the internet. You can, or then using your contact overlays, you could just think about a person, call them up, see them, have them appear right in front of you. The possibilities are endless. So this is great and amazing as long as it's done not the way that it's going to be done. We need to change it. We need to create a world in which these technologies are developed by hyper-aware individuals so that we create, because this is literally creating new avatars and shaping consciousness. So we need to do in a way where it's about maximizing quality of life. And it's ridiculous that that's such a far-fetched idea, but it needs to be done in a way where it's about maximizing quality of life for all, not about just making a bunch of money. That's why social media is so addictive, because social media is designed to keep you on their platform as long as possible And then you have all these companies competing with each other, trying to keep you on their platform as long as possible. So they're all trying to make it as addictive as possible. It's digital crack. And then so you're just glued to these different, you go from app to app to app to app to app, because they're all designed to steal your attention away. Now, social media is not a bad thing in and of itself, but when it's used that way, it becomes nefarious. Anyway, let's continue here.
That connect to a part of the brain that is responsible for movement intention. It has the effect that wirelessly it can send a signal to an app that can interpret a person's intentions. It sounds very futuristic, but according to Elon Musk, he says in a post on X, he elaborates a little bit, saying that this device will enable control of your phone or computer, and through them almost any device, just by thinking. He says initial users will be those who have lost use of their limbs. It seems they're targeting people with debilitating neurological conditions. Now, it should be stressed that this study is in the early stages. His company was given the go-ahead only last year by US regulators to...
I still think it's very interesting. Again, I'm all for helping paralyzed individuals, people who have lost use of their limbs, etc. I'm all for that. But if you think about it, it's a very clever way to get a pool of test subjects in a way, in terms of PR, that comes across very positive. Because immediately, what's your reaction, right? If you're like, oh my God, it's human implant, they're putting chips in people. Like, your immediate thought is probably like, oh my God, that's crazy. That's very unethical. But then if you're told, wait, no, this is for people who are paralyzed and it's helping them communicate with their loved ones, etc., then automatically you're like, oh wow, that's good. I'm really happy that it helps those people, which it is. It is a good thing that it helps those people. But you see how, in terms of PR, it's a very clever move to be able to have a pool of test subjects while still coming across as ethical. Interesting.
Carry out this human trial, which is in the safety assessment stages. And clearly there is a lot to assess over the following months and years, over whether this device will still be operating as it is designed after 3 months, 6 months, possibly a few years. And the results will be scrutinized very closely. So with that in mind, realistically and practically, it could be several years, if indeed it is shown to be successful, before this kind of thing is available on a wide scale.
Interesting. And so another thing that I want to show you, I'm going to mute the audio on this just because I think that it's probably copyrighted. But I just want to show you a quick clip. It's only a minute long, of the Apple Vision Pro. So this comes out tomorrow, actually. And so see, you put this on, and then you just see your devices right there in front of you. That's how you would experience it, right? You, instead of looking at your phone or looking at a pad, you see them right in front of you. You can have a television in front of you. You can call loved ones, right? You can adjust it just by gestures. So you can imagine a time, look, you have people just popping up in front of you. You can talk to them. And you can imagine a time when something like this is just in terms of contact lenses, and where it's also linked to a brain implant. So imagine combining these two forces, where you have a brain implant combined with, let's say, contact lenses that give you this kind of experience. So you just think, oh, I want to watch a certain movie, and that movie will appear in front of you. Or I wonder how so-and-so is doing, and then that friend of yours will just appear right in front of you. And not only that, but imagine that as well linked with artificial intelligence, right? So now you have Neuralink, or whatever brain implant, that allows you to access things just by thinking about it. You have contact lenses that give you an augmented reality experience, so you can see anything that you're thinking about or anything that you want to access overlaid into your reality. And now you have artificial intelligence that could augment, if you have imagine just wondering, because you can ask AI many different questions, right? So imagine just having a question right? Like wondering, some science question, some physics question, or some wanting to know some fact or something, and you just think about it, and automatically the answer is downloaded into your mind, and you know the answer. So you can have, AI coupled with brain implants, coupled with AR technology, all creating an experience that will ultimately become, almost godlike. Of course, at that level, it's not quite there yet, but you can imagine, down the road into the future where we're completely developing perhaps entirely new avatars at a certain point, when we're augmented in such a way where our capabilities, our physical capabilities, our mental capabilities, all of these capabilities are greatly increased. Now, one thing that I will say, though, that's very important is the consciousness behind all this, because it doesn't matter how augmented you are, it cannot raise your consciousness. Raising consciousness these can be used as tools to help raise one's consciousness. But actually, remember, this channel is all about reaching higher levels of consciousness and giving you and people the tools to reach higher levels of consciousness. And this type of technology, while it can be augmenting, it won't automatically make one reach a higher level of consciousness. Higher level of consciousness has to be done through metacognition, concept networking, and phenomenological experiences. Now, these tools can be used to facilitate those things, but it's still up to an individual to engage with that. And what I mean by that is you can have all these implants in the world, all these augmentations in the world, and then just sit there and use it to watch Netflix all day. You're not going to raise your consciousness by doing that. Same thing with the internet. People have infinite knowledge, not literally infinite, but near infinite knowledge at their fingertips. And people just use it to watch cat videos or something. So it doesn't matter how good the technology is. It's not going to automatically raise one's consciousness. And that's what's important. Is it to build a new world? We need a world where humans have reached a higher level of consciousness. Now, all these tools can allow us to facilitate that. And the only caveat that I will say to this is that it is a necessary step in reaching network consciousness. Okay, so network consciousness is different than raising one's individual consciousness. Network consciousness involves a synchronization of many minds working together. So network consciousness is something that will need to be facilitated to maximize its capabilities. But as far as on one's own, reaching higher levels of consciousness and even understanding like what network consciousness is and how to operate in network consciousness requires one to do the work on themselves through metacognition, concept networking, and phenomenological experiences to reach those higher planes and higher levels of consciousness, because that's the only thing that's going to change the world. So I think this technology is very interesting. I think it's very exciting. I also think it's very dangerous when it is in the hands of the people that are currently developing it. People like Elon Musk, these are not the kind, people like Musk, people like Zuckerberg, people, Apple and all these companies, they don't have your best interests in mind. They don't. They don't. If you think Elon Musk cares about you, I'm sorry, he doesn't. Elon Musk does not care about you. This is, kind of like the difference between Tesla and Edison. Like Tesla really wanted to create a new world. Edison was a horrible individual who went around electrocuting animals and doing awful things for propaganda. Now, that doesn't mean that certain technologies that were spread because of Edison weren't helpful. They were. But he destroyed a lot of lives, stepped on a lot of people, and hurt a lot of lives in the process. And that's kind of analogous here, where you have someone like Musk, where technologies that can be helpful can come forward, but we have to be very, very, very careful about where this can lead. And I read this quote last time. I want to read it again because I love it so much. I'm going to read it. It's a quote by Tesla, and I love this quote so much. In 1926, I know you maybe are sick of me reading this quote. Where is it? So this quote by Nikola Tesla. In 1926, he predicted the smartphone and the world being connected together as a brain. In 1926, Tesla said, when wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain, which in fact it is. All things being particles of a real and rhythmic whole. We'll be able to communicate with each other instantly, irrespective of distance. Not only this, but through television and telephony, we shall see and hear each other as though we were face to face, despite distances of thousands of miles. And the instruments through which we will be able to do this will be amazingly simple compared with our present telephone. A man will be able to carry one in his vest pocket. So, predicting the smartphone in 1926, being able to carry this device in your vest pocket that will allow you to communicate with anyone. When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain. And you can see that clearly. Imagine everyone being outfitted with chips like Neuralink and being connected wirelessly with each other, being able to share thoughts and share information. Pull back and imagine that you're looking at the Earth. All those individuals connected together as one whole forms a brain where each individual is like an individual neuron in a planetary or collective brain. And this is the idea that I'm trying to get across here to people, is that this is what we are. We are a collective. We are each and every one of us like a neuron in a planetary brain. And as we develop our technologies and become connected in greater and greater ways, that will become more and more and more apparent. But that's what we are, even right now, just connected through social media. That's what we are. That'll become more and more actualized as time goes on and technology develops. But the problem is that we have to consciously realize this. This is why it won't matter. Our technological developments won't matter unless we raise our consciousness, because we as a collective have to realize what we are. Because once we realize, we are like a collective brain, we need to organize ourselves in such a way. In other words, instead of fighting each other and killing each other and creating national boundaries and borders, and it's my country versus your country, and my God versus your God, and my culture versus your culture, and my race versus your race, all that bullshit. Right now, with all that going on, we're like a brain where all the neurons aren't working together, but are fighting against each other. And you have different nations and different cultures, which are like different little pockets of the brain that might be working together and forming their own little quasi networks, but then fighting each other. We are a brain divided against itself. So that's why our system, the Neogenian system, is about creating a teleocratic planetary civilization, a planet that is working together in unity and synchronization with the goal of maximizing the quality of life for all. When we realize what we are, we realize that we are one system. We are a collective. We are an interconnected brain. And we need to behave and organize ourselves and organize our world with that understanding. So we need to consciously and explicitly realize that, and then organize our world according to that. We are a brain that needs to organize its internal neurons in such a way that it is working in a synergistic synchronization, and where we are directing our energy collectively in a way that's not conflicting and destroying itself. So this is the next level of consciousness that humanity needs to reach. Needs to reach all awareness, hyper awareness, and network consciousness. This is what needs to happen. Because right now, humans are just stuck in their little box of self-awareness, and they don't realize that they are a node in a network. We have to realize that we are part of a collective. We are one system, just like Nikola Tesla realized, just like so many intelligent philosophers realized. And that is the only way that we can create lasting, sustainable change. Now, there is a problem, of course, that the rich elite billionaires could permanently take over and create a coerced unity through a slave framework, in which it creates a unified world, quote unquote unified, but in a way that is not through the raising of consciousness, but through a coercion or forcing it to occur through a hierarchical slave network in which a rich ruling elite or an elite in some capacity, doesn't necessarily have to be rich, but that seems like where the world is going right now. So a ruling elite rules at the expense of the many, which becomes a slave-like class. And in this world, and in this way, you could have a quote-unquote united world, but it would be united in a forced way, rather than seeing each other as all co-creators on this journey together and helping each other and raising each other up. It's seen as, oh, we are better than the lower class, and we are going to exert our rule over them and use them to augment our. So now you have a world that benefits the few. We want a world that benefits the all. And that's the difference. A world that benefits every single individual. And we can only do that by raising our consciousness collectively, together. That is the goal. So this technology has the potential to jettison us into worlds of experience and augmentation that we can only dream of right now. Or it can be used to create a slave framework where we are under the rule and under the thumb of an elite ruling class that doesn't give an F about you. So it's up to us to create that new world. It's up to us to create that new beginning and start raising consciousness. How do you start? If you want to help, how do you start? Change yourself, transform yourself, learn and understand, raise your consciousness, because you're part of the collective. So as you're a neuron in this collective brain. So you need to realize what you are. And then once you realize what you are, you can help others do the same thing. You need to help all the other neurons realize that they're neurons as well. And then when we all realize that, we can start organizing ourselves into a unified mental network. That's what creating a planetary system is. That's what creating a planetary teleocratic civilization is. We can talk about, different laws and rules that we will implement. But ultimately, what this is a structuring of a mental network with the conscious understanding of what we are. That's the only way that it can be organized in the right way. We have to realize what we are so that we can begin working together rather than being divided against each other. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Tell me right now. Make sure you like and subscribe so that we can get this information out, share this around the world. Also, if you enjoy my work and you want to see my work grow, help me create bigger and better videos, support over on Patreon, patreon.com/MorgueOfficial. You'll get access to all of our members-only videos. We're having a members-only video right now, which is all about memories are not stored in the brain. Where are memories? That's what we'll be talking about. So support at any tier on Patreon or tier 2 or higher on YouTube by hitting the join button right below this video to get access to all our members-only videos. And as always, remember, hey, this isn't church, so don't feel obligated to support monetarily. There are plenty of free ways you can support, like liking and subscribing and sharing. But I do appreciate the support. It helps out a lot. I want to give a shout out to those who do, especially Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, Enki, Nusalina, Masam, Eric Fire, Christopher Smith, the Eternal Empire, and everyone else. Thank you very much.